And welcome back to another special edition of High Side Hockey. This is Prospect Talk here with my top analytics and draft analysis people, I guess I'll call you, HW Zone. Josh Bright from The Bright Side, a former hit show that may be coming back. You never know. Things may be brighter now. I don't know. And, of course, Paul Pollock in our analytics department. And we all love the draft. And with it being right around the corner, why not get into it? So with that, gentlemen, I won't waste anybody's time. While we get started, I'm going to start sending some stuff out. There may be some issues with Twitter right now, as you saw our
perfect timing.
Yeah. Yep. So I just sent it live, and it's giving me an error message. Definitely on YouTube. So we'll get going, guys. This 2025 draft is shaping up to be a crapshoot, honestly. So it's everybody's got their favorites. There's definitely some needs, some best player available situations. We are going to break down Josh's and Paul's top 10, not a mock, top 10 at each position, or top 10 of where we think these players should go, not based on need. And we'll kind of get into it there because there's a lot of different views on this draft across the board. So with that, the Islanders are on the clock, but that's not important. Paul, who do you think is the top player in the 2025 NHL draft?
Yeah, I will say these rankings are pretty fluid. I feel like I switch them every hour. But I think 1 and 2 are locked in, and maybe 3 as well. And I don't think there will be too much controversy here. Matthew Schaefer is number 1 for me. I think he's the best player in the draft. Obviously, he's number 1. But yeah, he just does it all. Great mover with the puck, without the puck. Is one of the better rush defenders. Could use a little work one-on-one, but offensively, he's very talented. I see a guy who's going to play both ways on two-way defenseman, a little Miro Heiskanen-esque, and just be a really, really big factor for whoever drafts him, which will probably be the Islanders.
Where do you think Schaefer would rank in, say, last year's draft or a better draft? Is he like – where I don't want to put words in your mouth. Where would you put him?
I think he'd probably be number 1 among the defensemen. You're saying, right?
Not among.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember who was it. Lev Shunov who went first?
Yes.
Last year?
I believe it was Was he the number 2 pick?
Yeah. I think he would be higher than all those guys last year. Last year had like 6 or 7 defensemen ranked in the top 15, and it was kind of like the centers this year. There was a lot of variance in the rankings. I feel like Lev Shunov was for the most part number 1, but you had like Zane Parekh, Zeev Buium, Yakimchuk, bunch of those guys. But I think he would be the safest and also potentially the highest upside. He really can kind of do it all. It's a shame he missed a lot of the season. It affects the scouting a little bit, but we saw enough from him. He's got it all pretty much.
Yes, and you know what? Before I ask any more questions, I'll jump up just because it's the first pick of the mock here or the rankings. I'll jump over to Josh. Josh, who is your number 1 prospect in this draft?
Yeah, surprise. I'm sticking with Schaefer. I think the most impressive thing is like the dude's played 73 games in the past 2 years, and I don't really think it's up for debate who's the top pick among like all scouts. I think Schaefer's ranking like head and shoulders above everyone. I think the only people who are really saying Misa's better are teams like us who are starving for a center and just positionally like, yeah, I'd prefer Misa over Schaefer because that fits my need. But yeah, like he said, it's like a Heiskanen comp. I think if you're talking about last year and you're going like Lev Shunov, Buium, Dickinson, Parekh, I would take Schaefer above all those guys. So he's definitely my number 1. And whatever team has number 1, even if it was the Islanders, Flyers, Sharks, Hawks, I think you're taking Schaefer regardless.
So I want to go to the next one before I ask more questions, because that's where I think the debate is, because I don't want to make it seem like too much of a waste of time pushing these 2 guys out, but we have to. So Paul, back to you real quick. Who is your number 2 prospect?
Yeah. Again, no surprise. Michael Misa's too. I mean, I can see a debate with him and Schaefer a little bit, but I think it's mostly what Josh said. It's people that would want to center the positional impact. But I mean, the points he put up this year are pretty insane. I think it was the most points in the draft year in the OHL since Patrick Kane. He gets it done in a variety of ways. He's not like the just overpowering sniper. I feel like he scores a ton of different ways. He can thread passes through seams, just like knows where to be at all times in the offensive zone. And yeah, I mean, I think it was like 130 something points in 60 games or something like that. The production's pretty hard to look past. I wondered, I probably wouldn't change anything since he's locked in at number 2, but Misa at one point was coming up. Like, you had heard about him a couple years before his draft year, and I think 2 seasons ago he was already over a point per game, and then last year he was good, but kind of didn't take the step forward people were expecting. I wonder if he would get a little more hype for number 1 if the progression had continued last year like it did this year, but probably wouldn't change anything because the step he took this year was pretty massive and got him back on track.
I think the most you heard from Michael Misa was during the World Juniors this year when Canada couldn't score.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he got screwed. Why do you think allegedly certain teams draft analysis, they don't have Misa as the top forward in the draft? What do you think that could possibly be?
Josh, you want it or me?
I don't think I have a great answer for this, but I think there's going to be a lot of debate about like which players stick at center in this draft and which players end up on a wing. And I think the big thing with Misa that you're going to hear about playing wing is because San Jose is probably taking him, and they already have Celebrini and Smith down the center. But I think if you're going to start debating like who's the pure center in this draft and he could play center, but he might be best served playing wing, I think Misa can kind of slide into both of those categories. So maybe some teams like phase themselves out of Misa because they want a more pure center, but I would not trust the scouting departments of those teams if they're taking other forwards in this draft over Michael Misa.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, I'll just jump over to you real quick so we can talk more about it. Your number 2 would be?
Yeah, it's the guy who just broke Saginaw's all-time leading scoring record over superstar Ryan McDonough. I mean, Misa's like the most dynamic forward in this draft. It's 134 points in 65 games. Like it's not close. I think you can find flaws in almost every other forward in this draft. I don't see huge flaws with Misa's game, and that's why I'd be so cocky taking him at 2.
Yeah, and I mean, now that those 2 are out of the way, it might get to the nitty gritty of the draft here. It should get a little bit fun. I didn't want to get too much into those 2 players. We know how good they are. We're not getting them here in Philly, so it is what it is. And let's have some fun. I'll move on. Number 3, Paul. Who is your number 3 prospect?
Yeah, I imagine Josh and I will be maybe the same on this one, but I do think the draft in general gets a little spicier at this point. I feel like the NHL teams and even public lists as well, it's kind of going to be all over the place from 3 to 20 even. I know some people say it's like a 6-person draft. I'm not even sure I agree with that. I think you can argue for a lot of different people from here to 10 or 15. I've gone back and forth on it. I'm going to go with James Higgins, though, at 3. I'm going to keep him there.
Even after a year off, we're still so aligned in everything.
Always. It's chemistry. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've gone back and forth. You were hoping for a better year for him. It was, he came in as the projected number 1 pick. He wasn't bad at BC. He was a point per game as a freshman and not like the most physically developed freshman either. But you compare it to the BC freshmen of the last couple of years, like Ryan Leonard, Perot, Cutter Gauthier. Sorry, Jack, had to mention his name. Will Smith.
And
it just the production wasn't on those guys' levels, but it could be a stylistic thing, could be a physical thing. Like him and Leonard are both puck carriers and kind of hard to operate together. And again, he was still good. He's incredibly plays with his head up. I feel like his head is never down, which is great. He's one of the more dynamic players in the draft. Sorry, I'm taking up all the time, Josh, but one last thing. I just feel like this draft, unfortunately, I just don't see that many guys with like realistic first line upside. I think I'm sure there will be a couple guys surprising and big steep development all of a sudden, and they come over into a first line. But heading in as prospects, I think he's one of the higher upside guys at this point.
And it does sound like we may have a similar. Josh, your number 3.
Yeah, for sure. I was bouncing back and forth, kind of just like Paul was, but I think looking at Higgins, like we were disappointed in him because he didn't have the year he wanted, but like point per game in your first season at BC is bananas for a player. I know everyone likes comparisons, and like I've heard like Jack Hughes light with him, and like he's just such a good skater. He's such a good passer. He has such good vision, great hockey IQ. The only thing you can maybe knock him for is his shot, but we saw with connecting that kind of comes with time in the NHL. So I'm be cocky as hell. He seems like a player who could slip in the draft given some teams' preferences for centers who are bigger, players who are a little bit, more dynamic, or so their scouting departments think. But, you're running to the podium with Higgins at 6.
Yeah, and I will be. It's no secret that's exactly who I want. Do you think it's fair, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe his line was Perreault and
Leonard,
and they are older than him. Do you think he potentially deferred to them, and that's why his numbers took a little bit of a hit? It wasn't exactly the alpha there. It's his first year, like you said. Like, does that have something to do, you think, with that, or it just is just how it is?
I think it's definitely possible. I think especially with him and Leonard, that they both like to be on the puck a lot, and there's only one ball. But I think it's definitely part of it. There were times where he played with Teddy Stiga and performed really well with more of a guy who can get the puck off the walls and create space kind of guy and let Higgins create. Still, Perreault and Leonard are two very talented guys, so you would think, it can't be too much of a negative effect. It should be mostly positive. But I think it's definitely possible, and also with like the physical development that he'll have another year, I would expect him to have a pretty big season at BC next year.
Yes, and I am hoping to God that he slips. Vinny, checking in. Higgins was unreal at the U18s last year. Absolutely.
It's a fair point. It wasn't mentioned, but like we talk about this year's production, and it definitely has to be factored in. You can't ignore it, but you also have to remember how good of a prospect he was last year and what he did on the world stage and everything he did last year.
I think the one thing I didn't mention about Higgins that I wanted to is like and it's just, I don't watch every BC game, but like every time I tuned into a big game that they were having, especially like World Juniors this past year, like he had to get 5 goals, 4 assists in 7 games. Like every big game he was in, he was noticeable, usually scored a goal, and it was usually a score changing goal. Like he always seems to really rise in those big moments. And like we just watched Toronto get bounced in the second round again. Like I think it's hard not to love players who you see perform in clutch time.
He's another guy, like you were saying, Josh. There'll be a big conversation on who sticks at center. He's another guy that could be a winger. If the Flyers draft him, I'm sure they'll try everything to make him stick at center, and I can see it working. He's a great playmaker. You just hope he didn't really drive the play on BC's line this year, so you kind of hope he develops in that way and can step it up there.
Let me talk about when I'm watching the draft lottery and I see the Islanders jump everybody. I was like, the odds of us getting Higgins are pretty slim, but there's still a chance. And then once Utah jumped us, I was like, I kind of let the dream go. It's come back a little bit with how ridiculous some of these mocks have been. I don't know if he gets past Nashville though. So it obviously depends on how to draft.
Kind of what I think.
Too many people are like, they do their mocks and it comes in when he's still available. I've seen Denoyers go third. I've seen Frondell go third, and whenever it comes down to Higgins, I've never seen him get past Nashville. And that, I hope that's people's biases, not what Nashville actually thinks, because it's like, if that happens and we get sniped like that, like, I almost cursed.
I feel like the last couple of years, they've trended towards higher upside picks too. So it would surprise me if he slips by Nashville too, but you never. It depends on what else is there. Like if Porter Martone falls to 5 or something, maybe they like him more.
Yeah, it's like a historic thing with Nashville's. They've always had like big body centers, but like the last few years, like Evangelista and the other guys they're taking, they're going for smaller guys who have a lot of upside. So I don't think you can pin that narrative to them anymore. especially with Trotz in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows what he'll do? Maybe he'll trade the pick. Fingers crossed. Just a chance. And if we get sniped, it's going to kill me. It really is. But Porter Martoni. Well, I don't want to get into it yet because somebody's got him ranked. But we'll move on. Paul, who is your number 4 best prospect?
So this one won't be as loved by everyone. And honestly, it scares me to put him here too. But I'm gonna go with Desnoyers here. I think everybody at this point on has flaws, and on a different year, I probably wouldn't have him at 4 because I normally am I want to shoot for upside on it. I'm just not sure that many people behind him have that much more upside than him. And I guess that's not a great thing because I'm not sure he's a number 1 center. I think there's a world where he becomes that in the same vein of like a Nico Hischier, Mike Richards, for the Flyers fans, that type of thing. But he probably ends up as a 2 center. But he is, I mean, he does everything well. He's a winner, which is such an old school hockey mentality, but he is. Brings his teammates in the fight with him. The production was very good this year. It does scare me. It's hard to scout in the queue. That league's just become so weak. But, his team's in the Memorial Cup, and he's the leading scorer by a mile on the team. A little bit to take away from the scariness of the queue, he does produce on the world stage too. He's done well for Canada. I think he had like 11 points in 7 games or something like that. But he kind of does everything well. He's physical. He's got a decent shot. I think his playmaking game is even underrated. It could be more higher end than just good. And he's just a very solid player all around. And like I said, on a different year, maybe I wouldn't put him here because the upside isn't quite as high, but I don't think it's as bad as people are saying either.
Do you think if he were to fall to 6 and the Flyers were to wind up with him, even though you have him ranked here F4, that there is a essence of a lower ceiling and maybe we're really not getting that 1C. We kind of don't know how we're going to get that guy. Or do you think there's something of a chance he could be a Mike Richards-esque style of player and maybe not be a top in the league, like a top 10 guy, but still a top line center?
Yeah. I think there's a chance, like you said, and it would be in that type of play style where he's a 2-way 60 to 80 point center who does everything well, plays really well with line mates. I definitely think there's that shot. I'm sure Flyers fans will not be thrilled because they'll see a potential low upside. My argument would be that I'm not sure that Frondell or Jake O'Brien are more than 2 centers either. Actually, I'm not sure Frondell's a center even, but either way, I'm not sure their upside is that much higher than Desnoyers either. I think it's just perceived that way for different reasons, but yeah, there's a world. I don't know that I would completely bet on it.
Yeah, when the lottery came around and we wound up with 6, at that moment I was like, Desnoyers is I'll be happy to have him. Really, at that point, what I was thinking of how the draft was going to go, that's where I settled at that time. So we'll see, but I've come around on him. I just number 1C is it going to forever plague us? We'll see. Josh, I'll jump over to you. Your top 4 prospect.
This is one of those ones that we kind of talked about pre-show where I was bouncing back and forth between who I wanted 4 and 5, but I lean towards Frondell at this spot because I was ranking this in terms of like upside of a player regardless of position. And I think at their ceilings, if they hit, Frondell is going to be a more dynamic player than Desnoyers. But like Paul just said, and that's my concern too, I think Frondell tops out as a really, really good top 6 power play 1 winger and not necessarily a center. His shot is, I would say it's the best in the draft. He can snipe pucks. He can one-time puck from the left circle. And I think that's a really intriguing prospect on a team that needs power play help and a team that has Mishkov on the power play. And if they're going to run anything like they did with Rocky Thompson last year, they love Mish on the left side, on his strong side towards the stick. So I bounce back and forth to this one, but I think just in terms of pure upside, I think Frondell will be the better player if he reaches his ceiling.
Paul, you had mentioned something about Frondell earlier. You want to expand on that?
No, I mean, I agree with what Josh said. I mean, it's a good transition because I'd probably have Frondell at number 5. But I agree. I think he's more of a power winger. He's one of the weaker transition players, probably. I don't know about in the whole draft, but in the first couple rounds. And his playmaking game is decent, not great. So I mean, those kind of attributes make it hard for me to think he'll stick at center. But he is the best shooter in the draft. His one-timer is awesome. And there's definitely some more dynamic qualities in him than Desnoyers. And yeah, probably slightly higher upside. I wonder if the Flyers would try to keep him at center just because of the positional need, but he honestly didn't play that much of center this year. He was mostly on the wing in Sweden too. Occasionally playing there, but he's a good player. He plays like a really pro style game already. He's just hits everybody. He plays north-south. He's good on the boards. And the shot, I think, is what makes people excited about the upside. And also the production was pretty strong in a Swedish league. You wonder how much more development he has. Hopefully a lot, but it's harder on the guys that are more filled out than the other guys coming into this draft.
I think what pushed Frondell over Desnoyers for me was that I knew we were going to be live talking to Flyers fans, and I want everyone to like me on this stream. So I'd rather talk about the goal scoring center instead of the does everything well, nothing super dynamic center. I thought that might appeal to people a little more.
It's fair. I expected to love Frondell. Just I don't know what it is. I have a tendency to like Swedish and Russian players. So coming in, I was like, he's going to be my guy, and I don't dislike him by any means. I just don't like him as much as I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because you don't think he's a true center, or is there something about his game, the shooting instead of the playmaking ability? Yeah,
I mean, I think it definitely, wasn't my favorite thing to kind of determine that. I'm not sure that I see him being a center. His transition game scares me a little bit. I think it's pretty weak. His skating is just, it's okay. It's not terrible, but it's okay. But in transition, it's a whole lot of dump and chase and kind of, he's very good at retrievals, but he kind of needs other people to carry it in for him. And, at 6, I would like somebody to be able to kind of dynamically carry it in.
Well, for the people who think Rick Tocchet plays a heavy dump and chase system, they're gonna love this.
That's true. Rick, he'll be hard on the forecheck. This draft has a lot of good forecheckers. And once you get past the first 6-7 guys, I think a lot of them start getting into the same bucket there. I'm sure we'll touch on a couple of them, but it's a pretty heavy draft for that.
When you said people were gonna be happy for you for this pick, I was like, please fucking tell me you took Brady Martin at 4. Let's just stir the pot right now, dude.
I was gonna say if there's a certain name mentioned, I'm ending the stream, but you already said it, so I can't do that now.
Cutter. Mention it again.
I got a Brady Martin. I got a Cutter. I mean, this is just going swimmingly for me.
Are you against Brady Martin, Jack?
At 6, I am.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, I love him. Trey, if he falls, it falls. I mean, I've seen him listed everywhere from the Flyers taking him because Flyers going to flyer up to 19. Depending on whose mock you see.
That's kind of the thing about this draft, though. I don't want him at 6 either. I like him, but the thing is, I can see people arguing for it just because I'm talking about the guys I'm talking about at 5 and 6. I'm not raving about. I'm not saying they're going to be some kind of all-star. So is Brady Martin going to end up a better NHLer? I mean, maybe.
I think the Brady Martin pick, and it's a different scale because it reminds me of a later round pick, but Boston getting hounded for taking Trent Frederick at 26, I think it was, when he's not a top 6 player. In the first round, you should not be taking guys who are bottom 6ers, but who doesn't love watching Trent Frederick play hockey? I think you're going to look back on this draft in 10 years and no matter where Brady Martin plays, there's going to be debate on how good he is, but everyone's going to fucking love him. And if he's playing Philly, Boston, New York, I mean, he's going to be a huge name.
I do think he's got more skill than Trent Frederick. But I hear what you're saying, and I think it's actually reminded me when Jack asked earlier about people getting cute with Misa. I wonder if part of that is because the playoffs are happening and Florida's dominating, and everyone's looking for that Brady Martin, Sam Bennett type player.
Recency bias is a real thing, man. I'll tell you. And I love players like that, but you still need the Barkovs and people before you can add those guys.
Sure.
So I get it. And again, not at 6, and I'm really nervous. And I'm a little worried about having a live stream for the draft because I don't know how I'm going to react. And I don't know. Ultimately, either. I swear I'm not going to take it out on the player. At least I tell myself that. But at 6, I just feel like, fan favorite. We'll love him. He'll, do what he's going to do. What the hell are we going to do about a number 1 seed at that point? And it's like taking a player like that, to me, your ceiling is you're going with the high floor and the motor and the Flyer's going to flyer and all that. And I love it to an extent, and it's like, well, this is probably the last time we're drafting this high out of something catastrophic happening. So it's kind of like, really? This is what we're going with? Like, Briere better be making some ridiculous trades if that's the case. And I don't know if I see that happening. And look, I'm not big chat. It's coming to Brady Martin's defense. And I'm not saying it's not true. We still need skill. We need skill. And he does have some skill. I'm not going to say he's
got good hands. Honestly, his like pace of play is more of a concern to me than his skill. But people will love him. Just they may also love him and look back and say, why don't we take so-and-so at 6 instead of Brady Martin?
Yeah, you're welcome for the engagement, boys. Name dropping this guy gets everyone rowdy.
I know. I'm about to go to Josh for his 5th. And I swear to God, it's Brady Martin. I doubt it. But no. Josh, your 5th top prospect.
Caleb Desnoyers went 5th because I was bouncing between 4 and 5 for the last 2 hours. But
nice pronunciation too.
I've been taking French on Duolingo for the last 3 weeks, and I was randy to take that one.
I probably bumped him up a couple spots in your rankings.
I love watching him play. I love to compete. I love everything he does. Watching him is a pure joy. I think the fact that he's the only guy still playing hockey at this moment in this top 10, I believe, is gonna make him rocket up a lot of boards because who doesn't love recency bias? The Heischer comparison, I think, is pretty solid because you look at Jersey and Heischer's a 2C, but would anyone really bitch if Heischer was the Flyers 1C? I think he scored almost 30 goals this year. He looked pretty solid. I love what Desnoyers brings. He's just not the most dynamic player. I don't think he's ever going to score 40 in the NHL or break 100 points, but he does everything right. And I watch how Mishkov played with an aging Couturier, and they're not the exact same style of player, but they play the right way. They play a smart 200, and a guy like that who's decent in transition, I think, is really good to pair with, a talented winger like Mishkov or Mitch Marner once he's eventually a Flyer.
A smart guy too. I was saying I like Swedes and Russians. I also tend to have a bias towards the higher hockey sense guys. Desnoyers fits that bucket for sure.
Oui.
Again, he's the guy that I'm like, at this point with how the lottery went, I'll be more than happy to take him. To me, I know they're not, player for player, that they're similar, but not that similar. I'd rather, he may not be there, which is why I could see the Flyers reaching for Martin, but it's if Desnoyers is there, that's the pick. If it's between Desnoyers and Martin, this is a no-brainer for me. And I certainly hope they view it that way. Another thing we're going to talk about, Paul brought this up offline, and that's Brent Flair. And this is a big draft for Brent. Now, hopefully they don't have 3 first-round picks because they trade something, but looking back at some picks, I throw Mishkov out. Mishkov's out for me. That was an easy pick. I don't count that as some magnificent thing that Brent Flair did. I'm looking at Jet Luchenko, Oliver Bonk, Forrester, anybody he's drafted, even York to an extent, skipping on Caulfield twice. So all that, we know all that, but
tell that to Les Canadiens de Montreal, because that was not an easy pick for them at 5.
Well, here's the weird thing.
You're just letting Josh use all his French.
Oh, dude, I wish I had the mustache for this show because this would have been so much fucking better.
I should have topped up on my French. It's explain to me one thing about the Cutter and the Mishkov thing. So not Cutter, Jesus, see what you made me do, Paul. About the God. So when we took Mishkov, Canadians fans at first were mad at their front office and then turned it on us. Like they came in full throttle against the Flyers fans, going after Mishkov's character and all that stuff. Go back to 2019 when we skipped on what's his name twice. I can't believe I can't think of his name.
What year are you talking about?
2019 when we took York. We traded back.
Caulfield?
Thank you. I don't know why. It just left my mind. Caulfield went out and Cutter came in, and it's your fault.
Yeah, my bad.
We skipped on him twice. At no point were we upset with Montreal. We took it out, our anger, those of us who wanted him, on the front office. No point did we turn our anger towards Montreal. So why when we take Mishkov, are they furious with us? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't want to shit on Montreal fans because I love Mark D'Amico, who we had on the bright side, I think a year and a half ago. But
friend of the pod, absolutely.
It wasn't Montreal's fault in the slightest. I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge when Mishkov was going through his draft process, he told teams like, I know where I'm going, you're better off passing on me. At least that's what the Arizona thing was. So yes. I don't blame Montreal, their fan base, for not taking him. That was not an easy pick for them to make, but it's easy to look at that in hindsight and think we could have had a guy like Mishkov with Demidov this entire, coming up, and that's fucking sexy.
I mean, it's baffling to me. It's like it's our fault when we had same team, same situation, and and it's a little, I guess it's a little different, but still pass on a guy, and we're the bad guys, and it's just like, come on, like
yeah.
Come on.
No, you're 100% right. We're not the people to be angry at. Every team has picks they don't like, and no reason to blame the other player.
I have family in Montreal too, so I'm trying to make sure they all don't hate me.
Fair. Well, just know they brought it on themselves. All right. With that, I will update you all. We have our current list right now, and this is halfway through. This is Paul's top 10. Schaefer, Misha, Hagens, Denoye, and Frondell. And Josh's top 10 is pretty close, but a little different. So really, I think the only difference is your 4 and 5 are flipped.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, things I have a feeling might get a little spicy here. At 6, Paul, you were on the clock.
Well, I guess it could get spicy, but I feel like Josh feels similar about this player. But yeah, I'm gonna let Martin slip one more, and I'm going Jake O'Brien.
Ooh.
There's definitely a risk with him. I think a little bit of his play style has some junior elements to it rather than pro elements. His skating needs a little bit of work still, but I think he's going to fill out a little bit more too. And with a little more size, hopefully his skating stride gets a little stronger, and also his shot gets a little stronger. Honestly, his shooting percentage is one of the higher ones in the league. I'm pretty sure he just doesn't shoot that often. Flyers fans will, if he ends up a Flyer, they will be pretty annoyed at times from him making the extra pass. But he, I think, is probably by far the best playmaker in the draft. He's just an elite playmaker, deceptive, and knows where he's going before the puck comes, knows where everybody's at, high IQ guy. He's one of the younger players in the class, which, similar to Jet Luchenko, I think is attractive. There's a lot there. He's one of the higher upside guys in the draft. And I mean, for the Flyers and for a draft that lacks a lot of that, I have to move him up higher than where he might be normally, just for that upside. And he will likely stick at center.
That's good. Somebody who sticks at center. Now, how do you feel about the Morgan Frost comparisons?
I mean, yeah, I can see it a little bit, but there's, you can do that with every player. You can find a player who we won't be happy with on the comparisons. Could he be Morgan Frost, yes. Could he be Cody Glass, I guess? Or could he be like what does Tom say? Nicholas Backstrom? I don't know that he'll get that high or not, but it's possible. I think him and Frost were similar in that they were pass first and could use a little bit more pace in their game. I think O'Brien's bigger. I think he's probably a more deceptive passer. And I would say probably has a little bit more upside to his game than Frost.
Well, that's good because Frost was should have been a high second rounder, wound up being a late first, where this is the 6th overall pick. So I'll take that. I coming around on him. I don't know why. Maybe it's the potential upside. Obviously, the Frost stuff kind of scares you away a little bit, but again, like what I just said, this guy is being rated where he's at for a reason. And going into the 2017 draft, I don't remember that. And I mean, revisionist history here. I don't remember that being like, oh, this is a great draft, Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not much like this draft. So I could live with it. I could live with it certainly over Brady Martin. Josh, I'll jump over to you. You're 6th ranked prospect.
Yeah, this is where we're in common again. I did not have Jake O'Brien at number 6 to start, like 5 minutes before going live, but he ended up there as I was kind of debating it in my head. Like, I get the Frost comparisons, but like the one thing about Morgan Frost is like 31 other NHL teams don't see him as a bad pick. Like, we are jaded as Flyers fans because he didn't live up to the potential when Dan Silver was calling him Close Giroux coming up with the Sioux. But like, Morgan Frost is still a damn good player. And if that's the floor for Jake O'Brien, that's still solid. I think a lot of players shit on him because we drafted Jay O'Brien, who has zero fucking relation to this guy besides Jay and O'Brien in his name. Like,
one's American and one's Canadian.
Yeah, and
where's the same number as Brady Martin, Jack? I don't know how that makes you
feel. Jesus, not good.
I think once I was doing the draft research and I kept I always had Jake O'Brien in that next tier of like 8 to 12 range, but I keep looking at him as like he's a 6'2" center. He's got 32 goals, 66 assists, 98 points in the season. Like, it's really hard to not love the guy. And like, I would be ecstatic with one of Hagen's, Frondell, or Denoyer in this draft, but I think those are the 3 players you're kind of hoping fall to 6. I think O'Brien is that first player where at 6, I'm like, if we're between him, we're between a winger, we're between a defenseman. I mean, I'm going O'Brien all day. I think he has really high upside. He's a great playmaker and it's really solid shot. So you just hope that junior production translates to the pro game.
It's kind of. Go ahead. Sorry, Jack. That's just kind of, where I came with down to it too. Like you go over some other lists and you watch these guys and he kind of was in that 8 to 12 range for a lot, but you just start comparing him to the guys that would be a little ahead of him. And I just keep thinking, well, I think the upside's a little higher. And also he is an elite passer and there aren't a ton of players in this draft that are elite at certain skill sets offensively. And being an elite passer can be a game breaker. You saw with guys like Giroux. You think of scoring and speed, but being that good of a playmaker can really change a game too. And like I said, I think that elite trait just makes it hard to pass up at that point.
And also shout out to Vineet Singh saying he is the youngest player in this draft because he's another one of those guys that you relate back to Luchenko. He's young for the draft year and he's producing as he is. I mean, if you're one of those people who takes that into account, like the production can only go up from there. And with his size, like he's obviously going to put on more muscle once he hits the gym. Like he's a really exciting player with a lot of room to grow. It's just you hope he reaches that ceiling.
And that is definitely one of the reasons why I'm talking myself into an O'Brien situation. If all these guys we listed so far, such as obviously Schaefer and Misa, but Hagens, Denoyer, and Frondell, if they're all gone and it's down to like Porter Martone and Jake O'Brien, I'd be more than okay with taking Jake O'Brien in that scenario.
And just if he ever needs help putting on size, I have a personal training business that can help him a whole lot with that.
We got connections. We'll set it up. It'll be just fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong. All right. Paul, your 7th top-ranked prospect.
I'm surprised that Josh and I are still pretty aligned here. Might last one more. I guess I'll put Porter Martone here. can't have him drop too far. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the player. I am keeping him this high mostly because, you know, there's guys that have watched more games than I have that love him. And I am the analytics guy, and his tracking profile from Mitch Brown is very impressive. So there has to be a little bit something there. But he's got the size, and he's like an excellent puck handler, excellent playmaker. With that size, pretty intriguing package. I just think he's a little soft and lazy at times. I don't know why. I wasn't a huge fan of Nolan Patrick in his draft year, and I get similar vibes. I can't quite put my finger on it, but
we're hitting all the buzzwords of players, players that we want to talk about in this.
I think there's not too many people that feel this way. He's number 3 on, I think, most boards, and I doubt he probably won't even make it to the Flyers pick, but I kind of hope he doesn't. He's a player that I would like somebody else to take the shot on. The overall package is exciting. Like, the possibility of it all coming together and hitting is exciting. There's a lot of things that I don't like in this game.
I see a lot of, like, I don't want to say comparisons, but you talk about recency bias. He's a bigger winger and whatnot. Do you think somebody could jump all over him because of, like, the playoff structure and whatnot? And we want a bigger guy who can hit. And you've mentioned he can be lazy and doesn't really use his body like he should. Do you think somebody thinks they can, like, coach that out of him, or he'll come around when he gets older and puts on some muscle? Is that a reason why he potentially could go to, like, 3rd overall to Chicago in some mocks?
Yeah, I also don't think that everybody thinks that he's soft. Like, I've seen a lot of reports that the people saying he's a big, heavy power forward and uses his size. So maybe they saw it a little more consistently than I did. I just don't see it that consistently in his game. I think you can try to get it out of him, but, like, could it be a similar situation to a guy like JVR who had the size, and you were always like, why isn't he using it a little bit more? Why isn't he showing a little bit more snarl? I don't know. I think the size, along with having that kind of handset, is probably what's intriguing. You think you can get a power forward who can handle the puck like James Higgins. I don't love when a big guy is soft like that and can have low effort levels at times.
That's funny. He just I was saving that tweet from Dan. Wasn't sure if he was going to jump on there, or that comment rather. And sure enough, there you go. You took the words right out of his mouth. All right, let's move on to Josh. You're a 7th ranked prospect.
So I thought about doing Martone here, but the more I watch him, I just don't enjoy his style of play that much. I'm not sold on him as a player. That's like, I could see the laziness in his game, and, like, coming into this, I was like, oh, you got center, defenseman, and then Matt Tkachuk. And because that's all I heard of the kid before I started watching him. And the more I watch him, the more he is not that style of player at all. I don't agree with the calls that he's soft, but he's certainly not a guy who throws his weight around as much. So at 7, I'm going with a guy who can throw his weight around a little more, and it's not Brady Martin, it's Roger McQueen. Because I'm doing this ranking this is based on fuck the injury history, fuck all that, who has the highest upside. And I like Roger McQueen a lot. If all those boxes are checked from, the medical history, this is the player I'd be comfortable taking here. He only played, I think, 20 games this season, had 10 goals, 10 assists. But, for a guy who's 6'5", he skates really well. His first step may not be as good, but once he gets going and he can fly, he really learned how to use his size to get net front, to skate well. I think, again, injuries aside, he's a top 6 center who's 6'5", and what NHL team wouldn't want that?
I thought, once you said what you said about Martone, I was like, we really, really are in step here. But a little disagreement on McQueen, but I hear what you're saying. No, I like what you're saying. I agree in that I prefer watching him to Martone. I think he uses the size better. You can see the upside. I just feel like, I don't know. I almost feel like him getting injured has put him higher than if he had played, because people are still envisioning this high upside thing when every time he plays, he just doesn't produce that as much as you think he should.
Yeah, let me say he's not, like, the injury is not making him fall out of the top 3. Like, he was never a top 3 pick in this draft to begin with. I don't think he's that dynamic. It's just like a player like him, doesn't the size profile along with the skill doesn't come along very often. And the one thing I always watch with him is like he'll skate at a defenseman and 10 times out of 10 he's trying to dangle them. And I'm not sure how well that works at the NHL level. So I wanted to see him really, develop this year, take a next step, and really see what he can become. But it's the jury's out on him. There was a point in this draft rank where he wasn't even in my top 10. But the more I looked at him, the more I looked at the profile and the upside, injuries aside, I think he's definitely a top 10 pick if it wasn't for that.
What you said on the one-on-one moves is interesting because I do think there's times where he just kind of doesn't know what his offensive identity is. And that sounds a little bit like that. I can't argue for this because like I said, I think the upside in this class is questionable. And if you see it in him, you might as well take him that high. I've seen like Caden Lindstrom comparisons with the injury and a big guy. Personally, I was very high on Caden Lindstrom, and so I think he was a way better prospect than McQueen. I don't see it. I also think, like in contrast to Jake O'Brien, Roger McQueen's pretty old for the draft. So he's an older guy that isn't producing as much as somebody should in the OHL at this level of a prospect. And with the injuries, he's losing a bit of time developing. There's parts of his game I really like. He does use his size a little bit, and like you said, he's a pretty good skater with his size. He can drive the net with some power moves, but I don't know. He's just very inconsistent, and I'm not sure the potential is as high as everyone wants it to be. I think a lot of it is just seeing a big body who has some good hands.
Yeah, an injury prone center from the brand new Wheat Kings is not really exciting any Flyers fans in this world. So
I think somebody said that too.
I'm glad you brought up McQueen though, because it's good to have a little comparison here, a little fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna say I'll ask you guys first. So I'll start with Josh. Say obviously Schaefer and Misa are gone, but Hagens, Rondell, and Denoye are gone, and the Flyers draft McQueen. Now you only have him ranked one spot under O'Brien. You're okay with that? You're fine with that pick?
No, because in this real world, outside of the top 10, I'm taking the injury concern into this. And in no world do I want to draft a guy at 6 that has the injury risk that he does. Because, like, if the Flyers are serious and hiring Rick Taco is obviously a tell that they're not in this rebuilding phase anymore, they're trying to transition to the next step, you're never going to be picking at 6 or lower again. Probably, at least for the next decade. So can you really take the swing on a guy who he's 6'5" and has had multiple back injuries? They don't necessarily get better. And at his size, that's already a huge concern. So he's a guy where if he's fallen past 10, you have 6 more draft picks in that top 50 to trade up and swing for him. But at no world should he be the sixth pick for the Flyers.
This draft will be interesting with the Flyers with having that many picks. Obviously, we've talked about it not being the strongest year, but there are a lot of interesting guys later in the first round, early second round that obviously have flaws, but there is some upside, whether they're undersized or if whatever the flaw is. When you have like the amount of picks Flyers have, they might be able to get a little riskier with the pick, whether that's trading up for somebody like McQueen or just taking a smaller forward with skill that they might not have in other years. So I'm pretty intrigued by what they're going to do with especially their 2 other first round picks.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this again closer to the draft when we're talking about players in the 20-30 range. Cause like there's parts of me like, well, I'm doing a top 10 list, but I want to talk about Braden Coots and I want to talk about Ryabkin a whole lot. So like there are a lot of intriguing players who have like really good skill profiles that really are interesting, but there's a lot of knocks on them too. So you got a wealth of picks in the top 50, and some are going to get traded, but you're still going to make 4 or 5 of them. So there's still a lot of players to look at in that range.
Next time we do this, I'd like to do 11 to 22. Why 22? Because that's for the Flyers pick. And I think if there was a world where they come away with Hagens at 6 and trade it for McQueen, I may die. Like that'll just be impressive. I will tell you one player, or I will take McQueen over one player. You know who that player is? Brady Morgan. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm going with the upside. It's all about the upside. You can sell me on Jake O'Brien's upside, but I don't know. After that, it gets a little hazy for me. I understand the injury history. There's a lot of information to use against me, but it's all about taking swings and getting that number 1C. And he's a big dude, and they want to get bigger. They've said it. They've said it. It has nothing to do with Tocchet either. Do I think they take him at 6? Probably not, but definitely interesting. I'm glad somebody brought him up. So thank you, Josh.
If we were sponsored by like gas station boner pills, that would have been a great time to throw that in there. You want to get bigger? This would have been a great ad read.
I'm saving it for the draft.
Are we not?
Who doesn't? All right, Paul. To you, 8th top rank.
All right. Is it 8 or 7? Are we on 8? I guess we are.
8.
Yeah, maybe boring, but I'm gonna take our second defenseman here. Go Jackson Smith. I think he can kind of do it all. He can put up the points. He might be a shutdown guy. He's just an impactful defenseman, good skater, kind of one of those high floor, high ceiling guys. Not sure exactly what type of NHL defenseman he'll become, but pretty sure he'll be an impactful one. He just does a lot of things well. I know I don't really want a defenseman. I want to keep powering with forwards and building up the talent. But if we're just ranking best players here, I think I got to bring in our second defenseman of the draft here.
Can't say I'm against it. The number one thing I'd be against is I don't want there to be a Jack Smith on the Flyers. Like that would just be a pain in the ass. And that's what they're going to call him. I already have enough jerseys to say Smith. Like, my Phantoms jersey says Smith. Like, no, I don't want, because I already had somebody like private message me about that. Like, oh, what if they took Jackson Smith? I'm like, it's hilarious. Yeah, but I've heard that too. He could be the second best defenseman in the draft. I don't see the Flyers taking him. We're down here now at 8, and I don't think he's a guy that'll fall too far if he does. I think the other defenseman's Murta that I think I've seen in almost every mock. As goofy as all these mocks are, I have Seattle taking him. It's almost like a sure thing.
Murka.
It's almost like he plays there.
He's the guy that
backyard.
If I had a bet, I would imagine Murka's the second defenseman taken. I mean, you could argue that there will be plenty of people that have him above Jackson Smith, plenty the other way. But when it comes down to it, Murka's a 6'6" right-hand shot defenseman.
Right-hand
skates
shot,
pretty well.
Big boy.
So I can't imagine him not being the second defenseman taken.
And if it's not by Seattle, I'll be shocked. Like, that seems to be a thing. Like, even as goofy as the draft is.
They've never taken a defenseman in the first round before, so I wonder if they would break that streak this year.
Well, that was Arizona. This is Utah. They're breaking all sorts of shit. Like, no, that's interesting. I like that. Another defenseman going off the board there. Josh, I'll jump over to you. You're 8th ranked prospect.
Yeah, so I had to put him somewhere. So I finally went with Porter Martone at 8. We already touched on him. I don't think there's a lot more that needs to be said. But, like, coming into this, he was top 5 pick for me for sure. I think he still has top 5 talent, but there's certain things I watch of his game where it doesn't really excite me all that much. So he's slipped a little for me. I think a team like Chicago or Utah drafting him at 3 or 4 would be number one ideal for the Flyers, because that drops a center one more time. And, he's definitely got a high ceiling. It's just the more I watch him, the more he slips for me.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement. He's a guy that we hope just goes. If Chicago takes him at 3, that'd be great, because I don't see a situation where Philly can take him. And I saw somebody comment about potentially flipping. You're just going down the rabbit hole. Is it possible? Sure. But, like, the odds of that actually happening are just wild. And I don't see us taking him and moving somebody else and still trying to find that center. So he's nothing but a guy that I hope goes early to make somebody else that we want available. So
yeah, and I want to shout out Paul for saying Jackson Smith at 8, because every mock I've seen, you got Murta, you got Keishon Aitchison, I think it's Logan Hensler too. They're all ranked above him in a lot of these mocks, and Smith is so clearly the second best defenseman in this draft for me. I don't have him in this top 10 list, but, like, he's the second best defenseman in this draft.
I love it. I do want to give a shout out to Aitchison, though. That guy is a lot of fun.
I like him a lot.
Yeah,
he's a fun player.
I think I might have Murka ahead of him too, but he's just a lot of fun. He just crushes people. He's putting up like a shocking amount of points, even despite being the bone crushing defenseman he is. Moves pretty well. I doubt he ends up a Flyer, but we would love him as well. I think he'll be pretty fun wherever he goes.
I heard he's potentially, if like McQueen's not available, a Rangers pick because he's Trouba with hockey sense. So
I could see that. I heard. I think Cam Robinson calls him Kevin Bieksa.
Oh wow, there's a throwback. Okay.
Yeah, but fun player.
Touche. All right, Paul, your 9th ranked prospect.
All right, this one I really go back and forth on this one. Might change by tomorrow, but I think I'm gonna go Victor Eklund here. The other Swede in this draft going high. Carter Bear was in contention for this pick, and him and Carter Bear play a very similar style. Bear had a tough injury this year, but they both just have like a nonstop motor, kind of bulldogs out there. But at the same time, he does have a decent skill as well. He does most things at a high level. Sometimes his hockey sense he makes a couple questionable decisions, but I do think he can drive play. He drove play decently in Sweden, and transition game strong. I think there's a lot of skill there and just like a never stop motor. I think Pronman compared him to Konechny. I don't know how we feel about Pronman. He's hit or miss for me, but I can see the Konechny comparison a little bit. Maybe best case, I don't know.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I thought one of you might rank him above Martone. I wasn't sure. It's weird. Everything I hear about Eklund is just positive. It's all positive across the board, but he's still ranked where he's ranked, which is like
he's a small guy
to 11th. You know, I mean, and yeah. So was Cole Caulfield, right? I mean, like
yeah. But Cole Caulfield had an elite shot.
Video game numbers, yeah. And you know, I figured in a draft like this, but he seems to stay like he's like a staple of the 7 to 10 range. I feel like, and it's funny, but and when outside of small, nothing but positivity, and it's interesting. And obviously, we're not in the market for a player like that. I am curious where he winds up. And Paul or Josh, I'll jump over to you. You're 9th for spot.
Yeah, Paul, this is where I would say that we are so fucking back because I was bouncing between a few guys at 9, and it was Carter Bear and it was Victor Eklund, and I leaned Victor Eklund. I personally haven't watched enough of Carter Bear to be cocky. He's in my top 10, but he is right there. But yeah, Victor Eklund is, if you took away size and you took away, you know, those factors, if him and Martone switch sides, it's Eklund all day. He's way more dynamic than him. He plays with Frondell over in, I think it's Djurgårdens in the Allsvenskan, and he's so much fun to watch. Had 19 goals in 31 games. I see a little bit of Jesper Bratt in him, and I'm not just saying that because he's Swedish. You know, he's a fun player to watch. If you're an analytic guy or if you like smart, quick transition guys, I mean, Victor Eklund's a player you like. And if he falls to a team like Anaheim, who I think's at 9, that's a steal for them, getting a dynamic winger to pair with all their centers.
Yeah.
Not much more I could add. He's just definitely. I'm very curious where he winds up, and I kind of hope it's not Pittsburgh.
You think there's? I guess probably not. San Jose only has 1 first-round pick, right?
I'm almost positive. Maybe I can pull something up.
Just
to pair him with his brother would be a fucking blast.
Yeah, exactly.
San Jose is picking. I want to say wherever Dallas falls because I think they got that in the Granlund trade.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So they do have a late first.
Yeah, Nashville. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. It says 20. Oh, wait. We're short a couple of picks. This only goes up to 28 on this list, so I'm not sure. But it did have their. Maybe Tankathon could help me out here.
Well, if that's true, it's a sick pull by me, but I'm just throwing dice at the wall.
All right, let's see. San Jose 2, and Dallas. Yeah, you're correct. And they had him ranked at 32, so I guess the Dallas is winning the cup as well. So there you go. That would be something. All right, so Paul, your final number 10 ranked prospect of the season.
It's another one I'm going back and forth on. I mean, I almost picked Carter Bear for 9, and I'm not even sure I'm picking him at 10. I'm kind of between him and Benjamin Kindell, which might be a little off the board. And for that reason, I think I'm going to go with him. He's a little more fun. Carter Bear also would be a similar talking points as Victor Eklund, just two bulldogs with skill. Kindell is, I think, also a bit undersized, but super dynamic, really talented playmaker. He kind of has a weird skating stride, but he pretty much does everything offensively well. Even skating, it doesn't look pretty, but he gets places effectively. Plays hard. He doesn't, I could see him falling because he's undersized and he doesn't play that physical. But I just think there's upside there in a draft that's lacking it at times. Just dynamic abilities that are not seen everywhere here. So I think the upside's enough to make me consider him around here.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure how many, and I'm just going by mocks here. I'm not like watching that much tape like you guys are, but that seems awfully high to me. Am I crazy saying that?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, I've seen a couple, like, I'm trying to remember who. I think Scouching. I don't know if you follow Will Scouching's. I think he has him around 10. There was another one I saw recently that had him high, but I think Promin has him in the 30s, maybe. I'm not sure where Scott Wheeler has him, but yeah, I think he's more so in the early 20s. But I just think the offensive upside is worth putting him here, and it's another reason I was, talking about the Flyers' second 2 first-round picks that I think will be interesting, because maybe they get a guy like Desnoyers at 6, and people are worried about the upside, but maybe with 22 and wherever they're at 30, they can get a guy like Kindell or Cole Rezhny or Ryabkin, somebody with some upside there that might fall a little bit due to different things.
So you said high upside with Kindell. Does he have a low floor? Is there a potential of a complete bust here?
Yeah, I would think so. Just because he's undersized and plays a junior game a little bit. He's not super small. He's probably, how big is Konechny at this point?
At this point, he's getting old. He's shrinking. I can't really trust what they tell you on the internet, but I'll look.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's not like a Cole Caulfield small. He's
5'10".
just, yeah. So I think Kindell's around the same thing, but just a little bit more risk in his game. Definitely a little bit of bust potential. But the upside's there. He played wing and center this year. Has a little versatility and pretty good playmaker.
Look, it wasn't Brady Martin, so I like it.
Brady Martin was in contention too, but forgot. I actually forgot about him. But Carter Bear, Brady Martin, and Kindell, they could all be somewhere in that 10 range there.
It is funny. Both of you brought up Carter Bear, and I've seen him ranked anywhere from 10, 11 to the second round, which is wild.
Yeah, wow. He's a fun player.
I think I have a list. Okay, that's 15, so never mind. But no, that's good. Look, is it a draft like this? I'm all for upside. Now, do I see the Flyers taking a player like him? Maybe if he fell, but it depends on how they do at 6 as well, because he is a right winger. So
did play a little center though.
Oh, so there's a chance.
Yeah, I don't know what he'll be. Probably a winger, but he did play both this year. He's got a little potential of it.
There you have Paul's top 10. Once I have your full mock, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire during the draft and just say everything you got wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll change. Lakovich was another guy who was in contention. There's a lot at this point.
That's one thing I think we'll do is before we go into our later picks next time, if there's any changes, we'll make some changes. So.
All right.
So why not? They all do it. Mock 5.0 is 10 times different. So, all right, Josh, your final top 10 ranked prospect.
It's not just because I'm a people pleaser. It's not just because I'm a Flyers fan, but I'm 100% going Brady Martin here. Hearing people talk about him, they talk about him as if he's not just the best hitter in the Canadian Hockey League. He would be one of the best hitters if he was playing in the NHL today. And it's easy to look at that guy, 6 foot. He's not a huge guy playing at center, but high compete, throws big hits, scored 33 goals and 39 assists, 72 points in 57 games. So it's not just the physicalities with him. He has skill, and he's produced for a really bad Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds team in the OHL. So he's a guy where I'm not parading down Broad Street if we take him 6 overall, but he's a guy he's in contention with Jake O'Brien there for me.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll live with that. Look, it comes off like I hate him. I really don't. It's just, it's where we're drafting. That's all it is. And what we need. Other than that, I would love him. I really would. Just, maybe not at 6. That's all.
Yeah. He plays his first season. Everyone loves him. This is a guy. It's going to be like Ryan Hartman's debut when he played for the Flyers and absolutely wrecked Dahlian. Like, you're going to love everything he does on the ice. It's just maybe not who you want again at 6 overall, when this is the lowest we should be picking in the next 10 years here.
Thank you.
Unless we get the same goaltending.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Ravensburg another day.
We can get Kolosov to play a little bit more.
Stop crying, maybe. So, I mean, and then, I almost forgot to present Josh's top 10 here. Boom. And that's Paul's.
I have no idea who Benjamin Kendall is yet, so I'm not gonna be the that guy. But you look back at that Shane Wright draft. Me and Paul did our rankings then, and we still feel pretty cocky about where we are today. And we went off board a little bit with that draft too. So I'm excited to look into Kendall a lot because our lists are pretty similar. I usually fall in love with players that are good in transition, score a lot, and are a little bit undersized. So me and Paul tend to agree on that a lot.
I don't quite have the. A lot of times there's a guy who I end up loving in a draft. It was Nazar, which I'm feeling very good about. I think he's going to break out. Benson, I don't know that I have that kind of player this year, but Kendall's rising for me. He's becoming my guy. Don't think he'll end up as high as those guys, but he's becoming that guy so far.
And in that same draft, Marco Casper was the guy for me. I fell in love with him. I was still iffy on if I really did love him, but there was an aura and there was something that pulled me into him top 10. And I feel the exact same way about Brady Martin. I think there might be 10 players in this draft that'll be better players than Brady Martin is, but something about him cannot let him fall out of the top 10 for me.
Ooh, you might be right. And it might be a shame to see him play for a division rival. I'll give you that one. So I pulled up your top 10. Paul, since you're looking at that, where do you think, well, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where is your biggest, what?
And what is your biggest what, and why is it 6'5"?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for the most part anyway, because Josh and I are pretty lockstep on these things. It's got to be McQueen, and we talked about it earlier. I just don't love the player, but at the same time, I can see why somebody would have him high. So it's not super surprising to me. But I don't love the guy. I don't love the prospect.
And Josh, if you could, what would you say is your biggest what with Paul?
I mean, it's hard not to say Benjamin Kendall, but if I sat here and watched tape on him, I may be agreeing with Paul. So I'm going to say Jackson Smith at 8. And it's not because I don't like the player. I do. It's just I don't exactly know if he's going to fall in. If you're looking at this draft 3 years from now and you're looking at players, you're doing that athletic redraft that they do in hindsight every year. Jackson Smith is either a guy who's going to be in that top 5 or probably outside of the top 20 for me.
Outside of the top 20. Interesting. Okay. All right. So one last question before we wrap up, because we're well over an hour. Put you on the spot a little bit. Start with Paul. Besides Schaefer and Misa, don't think where everybody else went. Give me your top 3 choices you'd like the Flyers to take at 6. I want to see how this goes. Maybe I'll change the parameters there, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of going to go with the rankings. Hagen's is probably the top guy. There's something I don't love about the fit, but at the same time, He has the dynamic qualities the most of any guy after Misa. And we need that. I'm not sure if he'll stick at center or he'll be a winger. I'm not sure he's a first line guy, might be a second line guy. But I think he would be the top one. And then, I have Frondel ranked ahead. Well, I forgot Desnoyers. Desnoyers would probably be next. Just because I think he's such a good player overall in pretty much everything he does. And I don't think he's one of those guys looking back in 10 years. Maybe there will be a couple guys higher than him, but I don't think it'll be a bad pick. And then the next one's tough. I have Frondel ranked higher, but I do think he ends up a winger. And just in my heart, I want a center. So I'm going to go Jake O'Brien just because I want the center. And I am a best player available, so I don't necessarily advise that. But, just there'll be a little part of me that's like, oh, man, we didn't get a center once again. And maybe Frondel sticks there, maybe, and it's moot. But we'll go off the board a little bit there and go Jake O'Brien.
I like it. It's wild. And it wasn't Brady Martin. So, Josh, same question. Schaefer and Misa are off the boards. Are you sticking to your board there for the Flyers at 6?
Paul, I hate to say I agree with you, but I'm going.
I thought that was going to be a Vontae Mack, no matter what.
No, if those guys are gone, if James Hagen slips to 6, that's a no-brainer. The fit, I think, is questionable with his size. Is he a center? But I think it's in terms of pure talent. I think you got to 100% go James Hagens. And then next, Caleb Desnoyers, sur les Flyers de Philadelphia, for sure. Like he'd be one of my favorite players to have on the team in this draft. He is. If we do a lot of the BPA first fit thing, but this kind of blends together for me here because I think he is the 5th best player in this draft, and he's the best fit for the Flyers if Schaefer, Misa, and Hagens are gone. And then, I went back and forth on if I really want Frondel here. He's a fun player. Who doesn't love a goal scorer? But the Jake O'Brien upside is too intriguing for me to let go. I'm not going to let the Morgan Frost shit kind of cloud my judgment on this. Like, I like his skill set. Will it translate to the NHL? We'll see. But he's got good size, good skill, good in transition. I think he'd be really nice fit at that 2C lock on the Flyers.
I like that. I'm in agreement. There's one other player if they took that I'm not going to say I would love it. I'm not even going to say I would like it, but I would kind of say, man, that takes some balls and does check a lot of boxes. And that would be Roger McQueen, honestly.
Oh,
and I know it's risky. Now, there's other players they should take instead of him, which they would have to skip on to not, which is a conversation in its own right. But I'll ask you both. Would you rather them take Roger McQueen or Brady Martin at 6?
I thought you were going to turn heel and say, check Brady Martin, but
never.
Personally,
I have a French word to Brady Martin. It's putain. They take Brady Martin. It's putain. You know what that
personally,
means,
I prefer Martin.
Oh, man.
100% agreed. If all those guys are gone somehow, Flyers trade back with Buffalo or something like that, and you're looking at Brady Martin and you're looking at Roger McQueen, I'm taking Brady Martin.
I'm not convinced Brady Martin's not the better prospect without the injuries. And then you throw in the injuries, and I can't do it.
Hey, he's produced
not at 6
on a really bad team. I would love to see. You got a taste of it, the U18s, what Brady Martin looks like playing with good players. I would love to see him on a team like London or a team like Saginaw next year, on a team that's really good, and see how he produces.
Bhutan. So you see why what you both just said there, why I'm the host and you're the analyst. Right?
I would say what you were saying with McQueen, there would be a part of me that likes the decision-making of being bold. If they went with McQueen, I could get behind that kind of idea. I obviously have my concerns about the pick, but the thought process of being bold, I can't fault too much.
I would like the thinking on behalf of Briere and you want upside and you can't be afraid to swing for it. So if you're looking at your board and you see McQueen up top, but the injury's like we went through his medicals. We think he'll be okay, but there is the concern. But this is the guy I think that is the better fit for the team and has the highest upside. The Flyers making that kind of decision would make me feel really confident about their decision making moving forward.
Yeah,
Martin is skyrocketing up these draft boards. It's unreal.
The two guys who care about analytics are going after this guy, so we can't be all
Brady Martin's analytics, by the way, are fantastic this year.
Of course they are. He does everything the right way. You know, he's that guy. Oh man. So we'll see what happens ultimately. I almost wish it comes down to that in a sense, because is Brent Flair a ballsy guy or a safe guy in your opinion?
Leans safe in my opinion.
I think so too.
I think this is a big draft for him and for every team. The scouts are going to make their money this draft. I think you can find some gems. There's going to be some misses, some guys that should have gone higher. Yeah, it's a big draft for Flair. But yeah, I think to like Bonk, and Bonk's fine. And I wanted Quentin Musty there, not Gabe Perreault. But either way, I think would have been a little bit of a bigger swing. Guys like Bump were obviously a great pick. Michkov, like you said earlier, felt like it was the obvious pick. You know, I guess you get credit, but not really. I don't know. He doesn't go like the full two-way all defense guy, but I think it's more on the safe side than full on upside.
Yeah, I always want to believe Flair is an upside guy, but I keep thinking about the Patrick Berglund pick. And like, I'm not in the room. I don't know how much, Brent Flair is slamming the desk for a guy like Berglund, but like, that's a safe pick because he has a really, really like decent floor of he could be a 3C or a 4C, but he's not a guy you're taking a swing on in the second round. But then you take a guy like Spencer Gill in the second round who has that kind of upside and is a fun player. So I don't really know. I see a little bit of upside swing in Flair, but there does seem to be a little bit of a tendency to take the player he's sure is going to be an NHL player. He just might not be the best available.
They do kind of go back and forth, like you're saying, like that. I hate it that in second round especially, it just made no sense. But then Spencer Gill is upside. No, you go to the year before and like I don't know that you call Bonk.
Oh, your mic's crapping out a little bit there, Paul.
Might have thought he was best defenseman there, but it's on Carter Sotheran, guys like. Can you hear me?
It's like choppy. I don't know. Just play with the.
Yeah, Megan.
Yeah, I think Paul has a really good point about that because like he's taking guys like Denver Barkey in the third round. It's like he obviously does prioritize skill, and it seems like everywhere Brent Flair has been, he always has a fifth round pick that is a high upside swing. Like you have the Russian guy they took in the seventh round last year, Adam Postinov, something like that. I can't remember, but he's another fun player. You have Alex Bump. There are players that it seems like this guy has upside. We don't know about the knocks on him, but we like him enough and we like the tools to take this guy in this round and hope he ends up being a gem. So there is a lot of upside with Flair I do like.
In later rounds, which is great because I don't see a lot of that beforehand. I felt like under the Hextall regime, and I can't remember who was in charge of the draft then, but it was kind of like they were just taking guys that were like third liners and juniors. And it's like, what is this guy's upside really like? And they're like overagers. Well, wait, once you get the right skates on, the sky's the limit. So, I mean, maybe there's something there, but like, I like that they prioritize goalie the way they did. And we have two pretty damn good prospects because of that.
Send out the Mikey D tweet. Always be drafting goalies.
Always be drafting goalies.
It's true. Absolutely true. So I guess it comes down to the first round for me, really. And it's like his first round picks have been Cam York, where he definitely should have taken Caulfield, but it is what it is. There was other players there passed on Boldy as well, but I understand that hindsight's 2020. 2020 took Forrester. Can't be upset with that. No pick in 2021. 2022 was Gauthier, who was a late riser as well. So it's tough. Like, and I don't remember a whole lot of what he did in Minnesota. Kaprizov, obviously, that was like one of their last drafts, and that was late. but I don't remember a whole lot of hits. Like there were NHL players, but I don't know about stars.
That's kind of how I feel like he is. Like you look back and it's hard to fully critique him because you're like, well, they got NHLers out of it. They weren't super unsuccessful.
It's like Jason Zucker.
How often is it
was
like the
a
best player?
second round pick? Yeah, exactly. And it's like you're not getting star studs here, and that's what I'm a little nervous about. And I don't know how much of that was Fletcher or somebody else or him. But you brought the question up before, and I've been thinking about it since, and I'm like, you know what, this draft, because look, is it a weaker draft? Allegedly, but you still got to pick the right players no matter what draft it is, and it comes down to your evaluation. And this is a great way to prove your worth, especially at 6. So to me, and I'm not saying this is the end all be all. If they were to take a guy like Brady Martin at 6, it feels very, especially if a guy like Jacob Bryan's available, Denoyer or Frondell, and they choose Brady Martin over guys like that. It's kind of like, are you really, this is your highest ceiling guy you felt, or did you go safe again at a damn high pick? And that, it might be a damn good player, it might be a fan favorite, but we're still missing something we strongly need, and that was probably our best chance at it. I'm gonna at least take a swing kind of guy, where if he's kind of safe, I'm kind of like, is that who you want to rebuild with? So can't complain what we have, but I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a little nervous. I don't know what to believe.
I wish I had like 6 guys that I absolutely loved in the draft, or more than that. It's, I think there's flaws with pretty much every player after the first 2, and they're gonna make their money on this one. It's one of the more important picks in the Flyers' recent history, that's for sure. I mean, the whole draft is, but that 6th pick especially, like you're saying, hopefully we're not there anytime soon. So we'll see. I'm scared for it too, but there's some good players as well.
Absolutely. Answer this is Teddy. That's a question for another day. A playoff contender apparently next year. We'll see. I think honestly in 2 years, and then Stanley Cup contender is a whole nother question, but we'll talk about that plenty in the offseason. And we are planning on having picks 11 through 12. 11 through 12. That'll be a quick show. 11 through 22, because the Flyers drafted 22. The next time we get together, if not, depending on how close it is to the draft, just finishing out the first round, maybe making some edits to our top 10, and then probably doing something for the draft itself. We have so far the last couple of years, it's gone pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. I want to thank you guys for coming on and putting this together. Had some technical difficulties, believe it or not. Thank you, Twitter. But we figured it out, and we did pretty well, I think. So, guys, I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to doing this again and finishing out our top 32.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks. Love draft season. Love hanging out with you guys.
Paul, you sound great. You do.
Shout out to Jack for the mic.
Hey, yo. So, Paul or Josh, thanks again. I know you're on the West Coast there, so thanks for making it work. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
So, all right, guys, we'll let you know when we're going to continue this, and obviously be closer to the draft, and we'll see what changes, and we look forward to doing it. So, with that, peace out. Keep it high, keep it wide. All the bullshit Jim says. Bye-bye.